Welcome to the Do Less Book Club, session 3. I'm so happy to be back with all of you. Let me know in the chat how you're doing. What have been your biggest takeaways so far? And any results you've received, any ahas, realizations, just let me know what's cooking for you over there, wherever you are in your neck of the woods. Welcome, 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 welcome. Just as a review, so far, we've talked about our relationship with doing and how we can change and reinvent our relationship to work and time and productivity. And we talked about the global evidence for doing less, and then our cycles and our momentum, our worth, our cycles, and our momentum. So last week, we really kind of broke down the upward cycle of success and the different phases of the menstrual cycle, the different phases of the lunar cycle, and what their different energetic imprints are so that we can most um, reap the rewards, get the benefits of all those different energetic imprints of the 4 different phases. Today happens to be a new moon. It's a new moon in Taurus. So it's also Earth Day. Happy Earth Day. It's a beautiful, beautiful time to be thinking about doing less and cyclical living and getting back in tune with the rhythms of the earth and the rhythms of nature that already reside in our body. We just have to remember. So I'm super psyched you're here. Can you just let me know in the comments to make sure you can hear me okay? And then any takeaways you've had from session 1 or session 2, or just any of the reading, or even just thinking about doing less, even if you haven't done any of the reading, even if you haven't come on any of the sessions, and this is your first time here. I just want to make sure folks can hear me and make sure everything's working okay, because I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So I'm a little concerned that you can't hear me or see me. So just let me know if you can, that you're here and everything's working. And I'm going to grab my phone to see if I can check from there. Where is my phone? Okay. I'm not seeing anybody commenting in the chat, so I feel like it's not working. Oh, Takesha says we can. Okay, great. Great. Awesome. Okay, well, maybe the chat's not working or something, or maybe there's just a big delay, or maybe nobody feels like talking to me, which are all perfectly acceptable, all perfectly acceptable choices. Okay, so let's go ahead. I really want to talk now, since I'm not able to see anybody in the chat telling me about their takeaways. Perhaps we could talk now about egg wisdom. So I'm really excited to share this concept with you. For some, it may be completely brand new. For some, you might have heard me talk about it in Origin, in the Origin membership. We've done 2 different times an 11-week egg wisdom experiment where we practice this. I'll just call it the biological art of manifesting. So it's kind of using biomimicry to amp up our manifesting abilities. That's really what egg wisdom is. I'm going to explain it in a moment. So it might be new to you. It might be something that you've heard of before, but either way, you are in for a treat today. And I also just want to say, I am aware that we're, depending on where you are in the world, I know where I live, we are on, I think, week 6 of self-isolating, and things are intense, and I know that there's a lot of political stuff going on. I know that there's so much economic impact of what's going on, and I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. just thinking of the whole world right now and just holding the world in my heart, holding the planet in my heart. Especially today is Earth Day. And on the way over here, I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Zach Bush on the Rich Roll podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with either of them. To be honest, I had never listened to the Rich Roll podcast before, but somehow I felt compelled to listen to this episode after following Zach a little bit on Instagram. And they were talking about the microbiome and how some early papers coming out of Wuhan, China, have been showing that the mortality with COVID has been very much related to somebody's microbiome and how healthy their microbiome is. And, the microbiome, of course, we're this isn't the purpose of this conversation, but I do want to share as kind of a Earth Day PSA that the microbiome is really an intimate part of how the earth lives in us. We are nature, our bodies are our nature, we are animals. And yet we forget that. We think that like we are here and the earth is over here, but we are part of the whole system. And when we begin to talk about the microbiome and the microbes and bacteria that actually make up a huge portion of our body, in many ways we are more bacteria and microbes. We are more microbiome than we are human if you actually look at the weight of everything. And so our whole idea as a culture of killing off life, right? The whole antibiotic culture and you know keeping separation between ourselves and nature is really so much of what's gotten us to this point as a species and as a planet. And so today on Earth Day, and this is very much in line with the Do Less message and very much in line with what I'm about to share about egg wisdom, I just want to invite us all to really be thinking about the way in which we are part of the earth, the way in which we are part of nature, that it's not like humans are here and nature is here, but how, like nature lives in us. And the more we can let nature into our bodies and the more we can be intimately aware of the connections and how we are all like we are nature too, that like saving the earth is also saving humanity, and saving humanity is saving the earth when it's done in a sustainable, nature conscious way. So just the invitation today as we talk about egg wisdom is to be more in tune with the nature inside of you, with your true nature, and look to how can we really look to the natural world for solutions, because this innate wisdom of the earth, the innate wisdom of plants and animals, knows how to do so many things that we don't know how to do despite our technology and brains and machines and efficiency. There are so many mysteries out there. And when we use biomimicry, biomimicry is really looking to nature for how we can solve our human problems. But I even want to add to that, like looking to nature to remind us that we are nature too, and that we are not somehow superior. We are, like this. I think this whole idea is like humans are here and nature is here. And I really want to balance that out and say we are not only on shoulder to shoulder on the same level playing field, but also it is the same. And as human health declines, and as we see profound increases in chronic degenerative disease, that is mirroring exactly what's happening on the planet. It's not different, right? There's not human health and then the planet's health. We are animals, and so our health and the way we live is an expression of a layer of the way we treat nature, because our bodies are nature. And the whole do less philosophy, the do less methodology is about listening, coming back in here, to live a sustainable, joyful, meaningful life. Okay, I still can't see any comments. I'm just going to see Takesha. I know you can hear me. Takesha, okay, you said there are lots of comments. That is such a bummer that I can't see them. You know what I'm going to try to do is I am going to try to pull up this Facebook Live in another browser so that I can see your comments because I feel really lonely. And, and I would like to be in connection with y'all. So let me just see here if I can log into Facebook from another place. Stand by. I'm going to open up another window and I'm going to go into the Do Less group. And I am going to hopefully be able to minimize or silence, mute this video so that you're not hearing me twice. Okay, I do see all the comments now. Wow. All right, great. Let me just go. Wow. Okay, there's a lot of people here. Hi, everyone. Thank you for bearing with me with my technological challenges. Let me pull this up and look at your comments. Okay, great. Awesome, awesome, awesome. For whatever reason, I'm only able to see the most recent comments, which is weird. Cool. So Claire says, I was researching some teaching tips this past week, and the Simply Organized teacher mentioned your book had helped her on YouTube. That's so cool. Small world. I'm on chapter 3 and feeling like you're speaking to my heart. Thank you for this book. You are so welcome. Jen asked, is the upcoming quarter moon waxing or waning? I think it's waxing, but want to make sure. So the upcoming quarter moon is waxing because the moon today is new or dark. And then as the moon gets to full again, it's waxing. Waxing means getting bigger. And then once the moon gets full, it will wane, so get smaller until the next new moon. Okay, great. So Barbara, I've been using lately an app that I just discovered called Stardust. And Stardust is actually a period tracker and a lunar tracker. I actually desire to create an app like that myself, but I found out there is one. It has some of the features that I was looking for, so you can check that out. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, awesome. So, who's ready to hear about egg wisdom? Who's ready to learn about egg wisdom? And I would love to know: is this new for you? Have you been practicing egg wisdom already, or is this, is it new, or have you been practicing this already? Let me know. And I know that there's a little delay, so I'll just give it a second. Okay, Jen's ready. I love it. It's weird. I just want to say it's weird to have myself live and then see the delay and see what, it's this is weird. Okay. All right. So it's new for many. But let me tell you, as somebody who has known about egg wisdom for years, we cannot learn about it enough times. We cannot practice it enough times. We can't hear about it enough times because it is in such opposition to the way we've been programmed, to sort of the memos that we've gotten about what we need to do in order to get what we want. And it really is this lean back, do less energy. And I'm so excited to share that with you. Okay. Okay, so here's how it works. I also want to share that I am wearing my egg wisdom necklace. This is the first time that I am speaking about this publicly. We've created an egg wisdom necklace as this talisman to remind those of us who wear it that we are the egg and that we have the potential and capacity to magnetize exactly that which we want, our desire, without running all over kingdom come, doing 1,000,003 things to make it happen. So that's what the Egg Wisdom Necklace is all about. Make sure that you're on my email list. Go over to katenorthrup.com/list, and you can get on the email list. We'll be sending out an email soon about the Egg Wisdom Necklace, and you can just check that out. There are a very limited number of them, but this is the Egg Wisdom Necklace. Okay, so here's Egg Wisdom. Once a month during someone's reproductive years who has a uterus and ovaries and a period, she ovulates. And as luck would have it, I just think this is so cool how the universe works. Today, I am ovulating. So I thought it was so perfect to be teaching and sharing egg wisdom with you on this day. Now, I just want to say two things. One is that this concept was taught to me by my mother, Christian Northrup, MD. So I really want to give credit. I asked her if it was okay to share it in my book, and she said, absolutely. So that's number one. And number two, this is a metaphor. So if you don't have a uterus, if you're not having a period, if you're postmenopausal, if you don't know when you ovulate, like there's so many logistical things that you might get like, oh no, this doesn't apply to me because XYZ. Please know that what I'm talking about right now is a biological process but the way we practice it in our lives is energetic and metaphorical. So please don't get too caught up in any of the actual logistics. I'm sharing you this magical process that happens in some people's bodies and that energetically we can all take advantage of. So once a month, usually around day 14 of a woman's cycle or a person who has a period, an egg will be released at ovulation, and the ovaries release this egg. Now, what happens with the egg is it's very cool. The egg actually, now the purpose of the egg is to be fertilized to potentially create a baby, an infant. And the egg really symbolizes our creative potential and our fertility, yes, from a literal perspective, like we're having a baby, but also our fertility from an energetic perspective. So how fertile is our soil? How well nutriented is our soil? How rested are we? I mean, there's so many factors that go into being fertile as a woman, as a person also, because that affects men as well. But there's also a lot of factors that go into being fertile energetically and available for cross-pollination. And so that egg really represents that creative fertility. And so the egg drops and she emits a signal. And that signal is strong enough so that she sits there up by the ovaries in the fallopian tubes. But the signal, it's like a hormonal signal, goes out, and it is strong enough to go all the way down through the uterus to the cervix to let the sperm know where she is. So the egg does not run around down the fallopian tubes, run all over the uterus and go down to the cervix and check to see if the sperm is coming. She's not texting 25 of her girlfriends wondering if she should call. She's not like calling a psychic to find out if the sperm is coming. She is sitting still, and her desire for fertilization, her receptiveness is so strong that the signal goes pretty far away if you consider, that an egg is microscopic. And then that energetic signal, that hormonal signal, is strong enough to increase the speed at which the sperm swims towards her. So it tells the sperm where she is, and it also increases the speed at which it can come towards her, which is very, very cool. So the egg not only has the ability to attract what she wants, to let what she wants know where she is, like, hey, desire, over here, I'm over here. She also has the ability to speed up the rate at which the sperm comes. Now, once the sperm come, they're all, you've seen those videos probably. If you haven't, definitely Google it. It's fascinating. But all the little sperm trying to like jam their little, they look like tadpoles, jam their heads into the egg. And what's interesting is you might think, oh, it must be the strongest sperm, right? Because they're all like, no, 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 no. The egg decides which of the sperm she wants to let in. So she's the one who decides. She has a very strong boundary. So her, her membrane, or the outer, I don't want to call it an outer shell because it's not an egg like that. But anyway, her boundary is very strong, but it's also receptive to what she decides is right for her. So the egg decides which sperm to let in, or which sperms to let in the case of multiples that come from multiple sperms. So when the sperm is let in, so she has a very strong boundary. So what is not right for her does not get in, but what is right for her is allowed in. And so I just love that metaphor for boundaries, like, because I think sometimes we can think about people who have really good boundaries as cold, and that their boundaries are like, they're just like unreachable. And some of us might have trouble setting boundaries because we don't want to be like that. We don't want to be somebody who's cold. We don't want to be someone who's not receptive or inflexible. But the egg reminds us, in PS, all of us were made out of an egg. Like, this is where we all started. That's why you don't have to ovulate in order for this to apply to you. That's why you don't have to be a woman. You don't have to be a cisgendered woman. You could be a cisgender man. You could be a trans person. Like, you could be non-binary. You could be past menopause. You could be anything. And egg wisdom applies because all of our bodies were created through this process. It's so cool. We all started there. We all started with the egg having a clear desire, sending out her signal. And, even if somebody was conceived in vitro, or, it still is all biologically working its magic. So the egg, strong boundaries, also receptive to what's right for her. So she is not only clear and strong, she is also soft and receptive. She's both. And then when the sperm goes in and fertilizes the egg, if there's anything wrong with the sperm's DNA, she has the ability to fix it. So the egg actually can repair a sperm's damaged DNA. And when my mom talks about this, she talks about the feminine principle, that, the feminine principle is to enhance and uplift and tend and befriend. That we just, we just, like, we can't help ourselves, right? We tend to just like tend to things and improve them, or, as she says, egg them on. And that's why, studies show actually that men who are married do tend to be healthier, and they do tend to be perceived as more attractive. That's why, women will say, oh, well, all the good ones are taken. Well, actually, it's because they are being egged on by a good woman or by a good person many times. Not to say, listen, my husband's amazing, that's because of him. I don't take responsibility for that. But I do know that the data shows that men who are married live longer. They are healthier. So just kind of an interesting parallel there. So she has the ability to repair the sperm's DNA. And then she and the sperm take, now they're this, fertilized sort of, I don't know what the technical term is, but anyway, they're this little fertilized egg. And they take the journey, which lasts a couple of days, from the fallopian tubes down into the uterus to embed in the uterine lining. Now, during that journey, the egg actually has enough nutrients to feed her and the sperm for a few days until they embed in that uterine lining, which will then become their food source. So not only does the egg have the ability to attract her desire to her without moving or doing anything else, through emitting a strong signal for what she wants, she also has the ability to speed up the rate at which the sperm, her desire, comes to her. She chooses what she lets in and what stays out, and then has the ability to make better, to even improve upon her desire once it arrives. And then she brings snacks, right? She has enough food to feed them for several days. So she can then continue to nourish her desire. Now, so many of us, especially if we're students of manifesting, might have this belief that in order to get what we want, we have to be visualizing it 24/7 and have a vision board and do a million affirmations a day and not let a negative thought enter our brain and constantly be doing something about it. And then also, like, let's say I was talking to somebody about receiving their stimulus money, for example, and she's made a million phone calls and she's talked to the bankers and she's doing the things. And I reminded her to put it to use egg wisdom to see if, instead of, yes, she's put in all of the work and now it's time to lean back and to allow the magic to happen. It is time to allow her desire to come to her, because she doesn't need to be the sperm anymore. She can now be the egg and trust that what needs to happen will happen, because she showed up, she stepped up, she has put out a very clear signal to the universe by all of the action steps she's been taking. And now worrying about it is not going to help her. Um, you know, we have this belief that in order for us to ever get what we want, we have to be making all the phone calls. We have to be sending all the emails. We have to be drafting all the plans. We have to be doing all the things. We have to be doing all the worrying. We have to be doing all the thinking. We have to be doing all the manifesting. But actually, if we want to um, use and capitalize on and lean on our egg wisdom, we actually need to do less. And so Sherry says, this is so good. I needed to hear this. I'm wearing myself out right now. Yeah. Aditi, yes, this is such a great metaphor for the law of attraction. This is such a great metaphor for the law of attraction. And, you know, I love it so much because it's how our bodies were made. So it's not like, it's a metaphor and an energetic principle that actually lives within our cells. Like, it's in our cellular imprint. I find this extremely moving. It kind of brings me to tears, this idea that the way we were made, the way our bodies were formed, was not from running all over the place making ourselves nuts. It was actually in a place of deep receiving and stillness, and allowing. And so I absolutely love to be reminded, as often as I need to, which is why I wear my egg wisdom necklace almost every day, to be the egg and to ask myself, okay, in this situation, how can I be the egg? How can I allow? How can I receive? And I also want to mention that incorporated, if you're a Do Less Planner user, incorporated into the Do Less Planner on the weekly spread is my to-do list and then the universe's to-do list. So anything that you're wanting to delegate to the universe and ask, really ask your egg wisdom to work on for you and to receive and to magnetize for you, I'm going to recommend you put it on the universe's to-do list. So I reminded my friend, to use her egg wisdom to attract her stimulus money or whatever abundance she needs in this moment, right? It doesn't have to come from the source we are so attached to it coming from. I think that's a lot of the time we get into, like, here's my desire, this is exactly what I want, and this is how it needs to show up. And the truth is, her desire is to pay her bills and to feel safe financially and secure financially. It doesn't have to show up through the stimulus money. And so that's also the beauty of turning things over to the universe and making a universe's to-do list every single week and utilizing your egg wisdom and practicing being the egg so that you can allow instead of always being in action mode. So I think most of us ambitious women need more allowing, less action. Now, it doesn't mean we don't take action. I mean, of course, I take action towards my desires every single day, but it's so important to make the distinction between taking an action from a place of anxiety and from a place of like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. If I don't do this, it won't get done right. If I don't do this, no one's going to do it. If I don't do this, I'm never going to get what I want. Versus taking an action from a place of egg wisdom, so that your action, let's pretend it was doing a social media post, right? Posting on Instagram about something could be a sacred practice of allowing and receiving, and putting a strong signal out there, a la egg wisdom. Or it could be sort of this desperate, scrapey, like, oh my God, I have to post this thing. I have to be on here all the time, right? Like, there's a very big difference between the way we do things. The what may be the same, but the way we do something, the how we do something actually really matters. And so the question that I ask myself a lot, and that I remind people I work with around is, are you being the egg? Like, how can you be the egg in this situation? How can you lean into egg wisdom here? And usually, I'm curious. Actually, I'll just ask you, what does egg wisdom feel like to you in your body? How does it feel different? Like, if I tell you about being the egg, I am curious. I am curious how it feels in your body when I talk about egg wisdom, and when I ask you, am I being the egg, or how could I be the egg? Or if I'm just giving you permission to be the egg in a situation, how does it feel in your body? Okay. So, Natalie says, I understand with my head, but I feel it doesn't flow easily in my body. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, it takes practice. So we have been so conditioned to think that if we want something, we have to go out and do all the things to make it happen. And in fact, if something came easily, then that means there's something wrong with us. We should feel guilty about it, and it's not valuable, and we are not valuable. So we prove our value with how hard things have been to come by. And the stories of that are everywhere, right? We love an underdog story. And PS, so beautiful. And by the way, I just want to also bring in the piece that manifesting does not ignore, systemic oppression, institutionalized racism, sexism. Like, there are really screwed up ways that our world works that you can't manifest away, and that aren't like you screwed up with the way you use the law of attraction because some institutionalized system has prevented you from getting what you want. So I really want to say that, and I've lost my train of thought. Anyway, it'll come back to me. But oh yes, so we've been taught, though, that the only way to get what we want is to work really hard for it, and that if we didn't work really hard for it, we should feel guilty about that. We should not talk about it, and that means we're not as worthy as a human because we haven't suffered enough. And so our culture really loves to celebrate the amount someone has suffered in order to achieve something, which is in exact opposition to egg wisdom. So I just want to say, if this feels hard for you to embrace, or feels like a little bit in conflict with how you've been raised or what you've been practicing, that is because it is. And so this is an invitation to a different way to try things out, to see, like, if I relax and allow, if I create more spaciousness in my energetic field through telling myself I am being the egg, then what happens? Perhaps would there be more flow of abundance if I'm more relaxed? Could I be more attractive to my desire if I really trusted that the sperm is coming, if it's right for me this month? Could I actually have more fun? Could I have more pleasure in the trust and the surrender to the perfect outcome, no matter what it is? Okay. So Jen says that her body feels spacious. Someone else shared that her shoulders relaxed. Adele says, since I read about this over a year ago, I had a great time playing with this, and I would love to get deeper. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So good. So for next time we open the doors to Origin, one of the things that we have within Origin is something called the Egg Wisdom Experience. And it's 11 weeks where we go through together one time a year, but it's also available, anytime for you to access as a bonus. So that's really, really fun if for those who do want to go deeper. I'm not sure when we'll open the doors to Origin again, but I did just post the waitlist link. Okay. Natalie says, relax and allow. I am in for this challenge because it really sounds relaxing, easy, and more in flow. Thank you. This rocks my boat and I love it. Okay, so Aditi says the question is, how do I relax? So I love this question, Aditi. And I've really been thinking, for me, this is probably not surprising to you. It's really an embodied experience. So when I feel more relaxed in my body, it allows me to feel more relaxed in my manifesting and in my attracting and in my business and in my relationships and my friendships. So really, there are so many different ways to relax and open and become more receptive physically, and really so that your body becomes a physical manifestation of egg wisdom. One of the things I really like to do is notice, am I always leaning forward or am I leaning back? So I began to practice this way back when I was dating, and I noticed that I was ending up in relationships where I was more in the masculine role of doing and planning and holding and leading, and I was attracting men who were more in the feminine of allowing and receptiveness and passivity. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but I just wanted to experience what it was like to be more in the receiving. Also, this was wrapped up with my control issues. So I just wanted to practice, like, what would happen if I let go enough to not be in control in a relationship, not in an unsafe way, but in like a safe way. And so I just practiced leaning back. And so try that out. Try leaning back. Great. Aditi said she just leaned back. That's awesome. Other relaxation practices for me, I notice breathing into my back lower ribs is really helpful. If I'm feeling like really like I'm white knuckling one of my desires, I find that just literally writing it down, like writing down what I want on the universe's to-do list is extraordinarily helpful to me because I feel like I've done something. Right? Like I feel like, okay, I've written it down and I've asked the universe to handle it for me. So now I can let it go because it's in my planner. And I consider this book like a sacred book for my most beautiful life and my most beautiful business. So if it goes in the sacred book, it is done. That really helps me relax. And I'd love to hear from anybody else what they do to relax and be the egg. And Hansi's just saying the whole egg thing didn't resonate with me, but hearing you explain it today, so beautiful. I'm so glad, Hansi. I find that oftentimes we have to hear things multiple times in order for them to resonate. And each time we hear something, we're a different person, right? Like we're in a new circumstance, we have new challenges, we have new opportunities. And so that's why even if you've heard it in Origin or you learned about it in the Make Time for Business program or something else, I just don't think you can hear it enough times, especially because this is exactly different than mostly everything that our culture teaches us. Our culture teaches us that if we want something, we have to work hard. And if we have gotten something and we didn't work hard, we didn't earn it. And therefore, it is not valuable and we are not valuable. And we should definitely not talk about it. So, okay, Robin is sharing that meditation works for her in terms of the relaxation. Smadar is sharing meditation and Qigong. Absolutely, such great practices. Noticing like for me, when I meditate, like there is an egg wisdom meditation also that my friend Megan Watterson, the author of Mary Magdalene Revealed and Reveal, did for me. It was a combination of the soul voice meditation with egg wisdom meditation. And that is also a bonus that you get when you sign up for Origin. So again, just get on the wait list over there at origincollective.com to check that out. Okay. Sampada says, I feel grounded when I journal. Also going for a 1 hour walk. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. Michelle's going to lean back more. And Christy says, I'll be getting that planner. I love the idea of the universe's to-do list. I'm just going to throw the planner link in case anybody wants it. You can get on the wait list for the physical version, but the digital version is available right away. And you can use that as a fillable PDF or as a writable PDF, depending on what different apps you have on your iPad or whatever tablet. All right. So Alex says, if I'm trying to manifest a successful move in the midterm future, should I put it on the universe's to-do list over and over again? That's interesting, Alex. So I love that question. I usually put things on the universe's to-do list each week that are sort of more immediate. Like, let me just tell you what I put on there last week. Just like, so you have an example. Hold on. So I will put like the number of sales I want to attract for a program that we're running or the solution to a current problem that I have. But I'll tell you what I do. And P.S., like you don't have to do it like I do it. And if you want to just put that same thing over and over again in your planner, I think that's great on the universe's to-do list. But what I like to do is I go into the moon pages here in the Do Less planner, and the moon pages, there's 13 of the moon spreads because there are 13 new moons and 13 full moons each year. So I'll go in here tonight and I'll put in my new moon intentions. And I would probably put down, it says this cycle I desire. So I would say like this cycle, meaning this lunar cycle, I desire to manifest the perfect or to attract the ideal moving situation, and I might give a few details about that. And I'll usually just say this or something better. And then on the moon pages in the planner, also, so there's a new moon spot and there's a full moon spot. So new moon intentions and then full moon releasing. And then there's a spot in the middle where this intersects, called egg wisdom. And it says, this cycle I received. So that's the place. And I'll do this on the day mostly that so the new moon will happen, then the full moon will happen 14 days later. Then when I go to do the next month's new moon, I'll go back and fill in the egg wisdom. So for example, I have filled in from this past cycle, the new moon and the full moon, and tonight is the new moon. So what I'm going to do is not only fill in the new moon on the new page, I'm also going to go in and just celebrate what I attracted during that last cycle from an egg wisdom perspective, if that made sense. Okay. Alex says, do I ever use visualization? I do use visualization. And actually, Alex, I know that I shared with you in the incubator and the other incubator ladies that I'm doing this workout called the class every day. And I don't really like visualize during that class, but there's a lot of moments of intense physical activity where they are asking, the teacher asks you to stay with yourself and just stay in the energy. So what I imagine is that the physical intensity and the physical exertion that I'm putting in that moment is magnetizing and amplifying and energetically, adding fertilizer to my desires. Or sometimes I'll dedicate my practice to somebody else. And so I'll just dedicate that intensity and that fire and the joy and the endorphins and all of it, and the stillness to that person or to that desire. So I use it that way. I don't do a lot of visualizing otherwise, but I know it's incredibly powerful. So, everybody does their own thing. I just don't do a ton of it, but it's not because there's anything wrong with it. Suzanne says, one helpful practice to reset my nervous system is to lay on my back on my bed and shake my arms and legs in the air while gently bouncing and choosing to laugh. I love that, Suzanne. So I'm a big shaker. I love to shake. And I just imagine when I'm shaking that I'm releasing anything that is blocking what I need to receive, and I'm releasing anything that's weighing me down. So that's great. Shannon says, if you're not lined up with the lunar cycle, do you set your intentions with the moon or your cycle? I personally set my intentions with the moon. So I do a lunar cycle practice using the moon pages, and then I do my kind of daily organizing of my schedule and my daily tuning in using the daily energy tracker that's part of the Do Less Planner, with my with my personal cycle, with my menstrual cycle. So today I am ovulating on the new moon. So I'm a red moon. They call us red moon witches. So I bleed right now in my life. I tend to bleed on the full moon and I am ovulating on the new moon. I read somewhere, and this resonated with me, that red moon bleeders are, so people who bleed on the full moon and ovulate on the new moon, we utilize our darkness, and we sort of like compost the inward stuff to serve others. So we kind of share the shadow work and the darkness and whatever we chew on in that darkness of our menstrual cycle, under the light of the moon. So it's more of like a visible public version, versus a new moon bleeder would be that's more for their own internal process. So, take that for what you will. That's what I've learned. Okay. Awesome. Great. What other questions do we have around egg wisdom? Natalie, bleeding with the new moon is just a much more internal experience. So when you bleed with the new moon, your period, your menstrual phase of your cycle is the same energetically as the new moon. It's like the darkness, the total going within. So it's just really like an internal, inner reflection, rest and restore practice that's more for you internally, as opposed to maybe doing that rest and restore internal work and then sharing that with the world in some way, or being kind of like in that spiritual sharing space, which is not for everybody by any means. Okay. Smadar says, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh goodness. Whew. Okay. Smadar says, if we are naturally born with this egg wisdom, if it is who we are, why are so many of us women and sensitive souls not naturally living this wisdom? How do we get to be the opposite of the egg? Well, Smadar, I think it's cultural programming. So I think the reason we're not living in sync with it is because we live in a patriarchy that overly celebrates the qualities of the masculine and has told us that ease and allowing and slowing down and receptivity is not as valuable and dangerous and lazy. Like there's a lot of things that have to do with egg wisdom that are culturally frowned upon. And so the invitation here is to just change the way you do things and practice egg wisdom as your own personal act of resistance, and smashing the patriarchy. I mean, really, that's what this is. It's a gentle resistance, a gentle yet very powerful resistance, because P.S., the egg has everything in it except for one. Well, now I'm about to say things I don't actually know. But the egg has a lot in it of what's needed to create a human body. Think of the power of that. Think of how powerful that receptivity is. We've been taught that power looks like power over and going out and being aggressive and always doing. But power also is in magnetism, is in having everything within us that we need, is in the ability to create life. And that doesn't have to look aggressive or like shooting missiles or like, making a ton of money. It doesn't have to be that way. Okay. Aditi says, I hate having my period, especially on heavy flow days. How would you advise dealing with this in a new way that honors and recognizes our egg wisdom, Kate? So a couple of things. One, a really powerful act, and especially on Earth Day is a great thing to talk about today, is to switch and use a menstrual cup and period underwear. So for me, I found that when I made over my cycle and made it eco-friendly or more eco-friendly, and I wasn't dealing with like the trash and the all the products and all the whatever, my own cycle sort of became, it felt more sacred because it felt like I was honoring the earth and my body by not, shoving bleached cotton into my vagina and, all of those things, right? Like, so using a menstrual cup and then using period underwear have been huge for me for embracing my cycle. And then also knowing that the gifts of the menstrual phase are that you are more deeply in touch with your inner knowing and your intuition, and you will have access to inner wisdom, and your inner voice will be louder than at any other time during your cycle. So now I actually get excited about the menstrual phase because I'm like, what am I going to learn? What downloads am I going to get? What truth is going to come through that I didn't have access to during the rest of the cycle? So it's been a powerful reframe, and as somebody who also is a heavy bleeder and also found that my period was annoying and like inconvenient at best, I've been able to really embrace that time and use it as a mandated slowing down and a time when I really do deep listening, and I've been able to get answers to questions that previously I would have spent a lot of time like thinking about and ruminating about, and now it's just like it's just easier. I just am able to make decisions. I just know things. So that's been really helpful. Okay. And Talia is just sharing that Party in My Pants is a wonderful brand of reusable pads. Great. I love that. I went to putacupinit.com to take their quiz on which kind of menstrual cup was the best. And that was really helpful. So I highly recommend go to Put a Cup in It to find out, just based on births and C-sections and various things, whether you're an athlete, all those things, which menstrual cup would be the best for you. And then there's a bunch of different brands of period underwear and reusable pads, and that's also awesome. Okay, so we've got a couple more minutes here. What I want to say is that this week, anytime you're just feeling stressed out or feeling like you have your grip on something or feeling disappointed or like you wish something were coming sooner, or, it's not happening the way you wanted it to happen, or, whatever, like you have something you want and it's not here yet, or you have something new that you want and you feel like, oh, in order to have this, I'm going to have to do these 55 million things. I'm going to invite you to try to remember to be the egg and lean into egg wisdom and ask yourself, am I being the egg in this moment, or am I being the sperm? And if you want to lean more into being the egg, it really is trust, surrender, allowing, being clear about what you want, and certainly taking inspired action, but not feeling like you need to be in a state of activity 24/7 in order to deserve your desires, because you deserve your desires simply for being here. And the egg, and the part of you that is the egg, already knows that. And that part of you just needs to be turned on, because she's already there. It's not new information. It's just a remembering of who we already are. Okay, Natalie says, would we be able to continue these book club calls? They're so useful. I know forward plan, but would it be possible to extend this event? So Natalie, I love that you're loving this, and there will certainly be many more ways that we can connect in the future. I, right now, due to having no childcare and needing to run our business, I'm not able to extend these right now. However, if you are wanting more connection and more like this, and it makes sense for you, then definitely consider getting on the Origin waitlist over at origincollective.com. Okay. And then, Yeah. Oh, Alex says, does being the egg involve being at the same point of vibration as what you're attracting? I love that question, Alex. So here's my thing on being, upping our vibration or being in the vibration of the thing we're wanting to attract. I'm all about that. But I think to me, the manifesting world has overcomplicated it. And to me, it's just about finding our vibration of aliveness and joy and pleasure and doing whatever we need to do to feel good. And sometimes what we need to do to feel good is to move through not feeling good and to allow ourselves to feel sad, to feel grief, to feel anger, whatever, right? So I just know that for me, getting so that I'm lying on the ground or sitting on the ground or standing on the ground barefoot every day is so important, or hugging a tree, like something like that. I have to get in touch literally. So my body is on the earth in some way every day. So that really helps my vibration. Doing the class or doing some kind of exercise every day really, really helps me be in a positive vibration, or just sort of the vibration that I know I want more of. Um, Spending less time on screens, certainly less time scrolling, less time on the news. Um, and then who I surround myself with, super, super important of the vibration. Just noticing when I spend time with somebody or when I talk to them, do I feel energized and uplifted, or do I feel tired and tired and and drained? So that's another consideration that I make. But I don't try to spend too much time obsessing about like the exact thing that I want and being in the vibration of that thing. I just know that if I'm tending to my own energetic field and vibrational field by doing the things that I need to do to be in a clear vibration and to have my lights on, and to find joy wherever I can, that it inevitably, without me having to do much about it, attracts the right things for me. And then I don't have to worry too much about what those right things are too. All right, great. Thank you all so much. This is such a pleasure to be with you. What we're going to do next week. So I know we have session 4 next week, and we certainly haven't gotten through the whole book. But what we are going to talk about next week is a few of the experiments. So there are experiments 1 through 14 in the book. Each one of them are mostly just a couple of pages. And so, pick the I would read all of them, obviously, but I just want to say we're going to talk next week about being experiment number 10, which is becoming a time bender. And we're also going to be talking about experiment number 8, which is managing your energy. And I think we'll also talk about experiment 6, which is asking for help, and experiment number 14, which is letting it be enough. So thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure to be with you as always, and I can't wait to be with you for our final session next week, where we dive into a few of the experiments, and I can't wait to hear your insights that day as well. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye.